I think the bigger drama was not what we were talking about on the track. I think the biggest drama of the whole freaking weekend was after the wreck when those guys started going at it. And I actually loved every aspect of that right up until I saw Jordan Bianchi get confronted by Kevin Harvick for trying to do his job. But again, I don't know what the relationship is between those two guys. And then I saw Jordan Bianchi get confronted by a rando or a random person.
T-shirt guy.
I'm trying to find that video.
We call him T-shirt guy.
T-shirt guy.
Jason and I reached out yesterday to Jordan Bianchi and asked him to come on the show. He didn't want to come on the show. He didn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want this story to be about him, which I completely respect. Reached out to Josh Jones, wanted him to come on the show. He was busy this morning. He couldn't come on the show because a lot of people on Twitter were going after Kevin, saying, "Oh, this guy needs this big entourage." I wanted Josh to be able to explain why there was an entourage there.
I don't think Kevin needs that,
with
by the
Kevin.
way.
But he always has one, TJ.
Yeah.
He always has one. Josh couldn't come on, but Jason was good enough as a producer of Door Bumper Clear to go find Jenna Fryer, who is somewhat of a huge name with the Associated Press, to come on the show. So I think, Jason, you ready to bring her in?
Yeah, let's get her on the phone.
All right, cool. So speaking of Jordan Bianchi, we've got one of my favorite media members who is on the West Coast this morning and got up at 6 a.m. to be able to look pretty on camera for us. Jenna Fryer, welcome to Door Bumper Clear for your second appearance on your favorite podcast.
Oh, it's my favorite?
Yes. You told me that once.
Don't tell Dale Jr.
So we're going to dive into this thing. As a reputable media member here in the garage, I have to ask you the question. And we're skipping the drama with Harvick and Chase, and we're going straight to the drama with Jordan Bianchi. You put yourself in his shoes, and you're standing there and you're capturing content that you think is worthy in a public space. How do you handle a driver, especially a driver like Kevin Harvick, coming over to you asking you to stop?
I probably politely move out of the way, but I don't know. I probably am a little bit nervous if Harvick's in my face the way it looked like, and I probably, put the phone down and move away. But, back up a little bit. I don't know if you guys have touched on this. There was actually two media members that I'm aware of that were filming. There's two different angles. There could be more. You never saw the other person. You can find Nate Ryan's video. It's from a different angle than Jordan's, and so I think that there is a little bit of a difference in their approach. Not even from the television overheads did I ever see Nate in the scrum. So I think maybe if Jordan had not been right there in Harvick's line of vision, it goes differently.
Yeah. So if Harvick comes over, says stop, you politely stop. Okay. Jordan chose not to stop. And he acted like he was going to stop, and then he kind of
Well, hold on. I stop in that moment that Harvick asks me, but I probably just move and reset and resume.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So Jordan didn't move, and he resets, and he resumes again. And then here comes some random guy in a T-shirt who is credentialed. Freddie and I watched the video last night. We didn't recognize the guy. We saw that he was credentialed, which means that he registered with NASCAR and able to get that credential. As a media member, how do you deal with a fan, what appears to be a race fan, squaring you off and now challenging you and basically saying, you're not going to video this guy, I'm going to stop you?
Yeah, so that's a problem. The media has the right to do their job. Jordan and NBC and Nate Ryan and whoever else was there, they were in a public space. And this person that we're talking about, I assume, is not an official with NASCAR, with SHR, with KHI, I'm assuming, right? And I thought it was pretty hard to get into the garage these days anyway. So now you've got this guy who has cleared, all the protocols to earn access to the garage, and he just randomly rolls up. Jordan has as much of a right to be standing there as this guy does. And Jordan's doing his job, and this guy's interfering. And I've always had a problem. I don't think crew guys should interfere. I don't think NASCAR officials should interfere. If guys want to talk it out and it leads to shoving and punching or whatever, okay, that's what happens. And when you get that big scrum, I'm like, what are we doing? Like, step back, let them have their piece. So now you added a random who has access to this. And like, name me one other sport that you can think of where just some random person can just enter into the scene and do something. So
this is my last question. On Tuesday, NASCAR looks over all this stuff from the weekend. They review all the stuff from the weekend. You're not a media member anymore. You're now a NASCAR official in this meeting on Tuesday. Should they identify who this person is, and should they penalize, suspend this random fan who essentially squared off on a media member that is, again, like you said, trying to do their job? What would you do if you were in charge?
That's a good question. I reached out to NASCAR yesterday, and I told them that I was alarmed by that aspect of the situation. And because I also don't think NASCAR, there was a NASCAR official at one point in that scene who was kind of pointing at media and trying to break it up. I don't think anyone should be doing that. So I sent them a note. Expected to hear something today. I haven't heard anything, their response yet today. I don't know.
You're skating my question.
You sound like me.
Give me a minute. Do you identify that guy? I don't know. I mean, you could probably find out. You can ask around and find out. It's clearly someone in the KHI world. He was there with Josh Jones, who you guys haven't asked me about Josh and that whole thing, but he was there as well. I don't know if you need to identify him. If people really need to know who he is, you can probably find out.
Should he be allowed back on an infield this year?
No, probably not. Probably not. I mean, I don't think you do anything to the 4 team or to Kevin or
definitely not.
I think
no. This guy, what I'm watching, Jenna, is one guy, no matter his affiliation, I'm watching one guy make the decision to interfere with a media member who is attempting to do their job in a face-to-face confrontation, challenging that if you don't put the phone up, I'm going to punch you in the face. If I'm a guy.
Is that what he said?
No, but if I'm a guy, that's how I take this. If I'm Jordan Bianchi and that guy squares me off, that's how I take this.
That was a big guy. He was a big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because Jordan's 6 foot. Jordan's not a small guy.
That was a big guy.
So,
I think that I would, it was unpleasant. If it was me and most anyone else and that large man, the whole situation, from the minute Harvick comes up to Jordan, I think that you've got, you're in a sticky, sensitive situation, and you probably should, move or readjust or get out of Harvick's sight line at minimum and chase the sight line. But that doesn't mean you have to go away from the situation. And then that guy interfered, and he had no right to interfere. And I believe that NASCAR truly knows that that's correct. I just don't know how they really fix it aside from telling this guy he can't come back.
But
I don't know. What if he's a sponsor?
Yeah. So I actually disagree with you guys that I think if you find out. So listen, we reached out to NASCAR comms last night. They don't know who this guy is. We reached out to Josh Jones. He claims he doesn't know who this guy is. But I think if it comes back that this is a KHI guy, or if this is a associate sponsor on the 4-car, there should be repercussions to the 4-car for this. Now, I'm not saying you got to, take away points. I'm not saying you got to do but I remember, growing up NASCAR, short track racing, if your crew member went over and punched a guy in the face, guess what? The driver was getting suspended because he's responsible for the actions of his crew. So now maybe you're not taking points away. Maybe you're not going to do anything on the racetrack, but maybe you lose hot passes.
So this happened,
and that's a deterrent to teams now. If you can't all of a sudden bring your sponsors in, that's going to make you vet this process more of these people that you give these hot passes to.
Didn't that happen at Eldora with Bobby Pierce's crew guy? He had to withdraw the first night.
Yeah, Bobby Pierce just got thrown out of the World 100 because his crew guy punched an official on
over
the night
a 4-wheeler rule, but that's a whole another can of worms.
But I'm saying,
you probably shouldn't punch officials.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, I think
there's still accountability in play.
I didn't know that. Yeah, don't do that.
I think that if you can trace this back to a sponsor or a KHI, somebody with KHI that was doing this to Jordan, there should be repercussions to that team or to Kevin's deal there, whatever. But I mean, there should be something.
Somebody let the guy in, right?
Yeah.
You know, somebody had to submit his paperwork.
What's the big deal about video? And you're on the big screen, the jumbotron at the track in front of all.
So I talked to Josh Jones last night, and now I guess is the perfect time to dive into this. We'll let Jenna be a big part of it. So TJ, I talked to Josh Jones last night, and he essentially said, A, he did not know he was on TV, and B, he had a brand new sponsor with Subway there. First debut race. They're trying to win the race. Obviously, Kevin, he said to me, Kevin was the most upset I've ever seen him, right? That's what he said. And he was, Josh Jones, on his account, said, Jenna, that he was simply trying to de-escalate the situation and keep Kevin from doing anything stupid.
I don't know. Kevin was pretty mad when him and Biffle had each other by the collars.
I was going to say, I've seen him slide across the hood of a car and try and kill someone before. So
yeah, I mean that's a big, we're talking a big, scale of that's the maddest he's ever seen Kevin Harvick.
He did have those eyes where he was mad, but I don't know if that was the maddest I've ever seen him in an instance.
Listen, I mean, that dude jumped on Ricky Rudd's hood. Yeah, who messes with the rooster?
Jenna, I asked Josh to come on the show. He couldn't. He had a sales meeting this morning, but I said, hey, what do you want me to tell our listeners? And that's what he wanted me to tell the listeners, so that's what I conveyed.
Listen. For him to say he was trying to de-escalate the situation is absurd, because the fact that he was standing there with his you could see him chirping the whole time Chase was talking. You could see the reactions of his, head going back and laughing every time Chase said something. I don't know how Chase kept his cool as long as he did, but for him to say he was de-escalating the situation couldn't be further from the truth.
There's a moment where Chase says something to Kevin, and Josh was like, oh.
Exactly.
I think that's a little damning to Josh's argument. He was de-escalating.
It's not even your argument. Just let them talk to each other.
I have been a business manager before with a driver. I have obviously taken a lot of sponsors to the racetrack. And, I certainly support what Josh is saying he was trying to do. His antics may speak differently. Switching gears, how does Chase Elliott –
Hold on. Hold on. I don't think that, Josh could have been there, but he also could have been backed up. Mike Arning was there.
In the red shirt.
In the front. Yeah, Mike Arning was there, not his first rodeo with a driver losing his temper, and he's just standing off to the side. It's not his, it's not his problem. Josh could have been there, and if things escalated and he needed to step in and grab Kevin, great. But Josh was right there. He was right in it, and I think that's the difference. You want to protect him, and you want to protect your client and your friend. But go back to 2015, was it, when Jimmy went over to the bus at Chicago to apologize for whatever had happened on track, and Kevin came out, swinging. Josh was there too. Josh likes to be in the mix, and I think that Josh would admit that.
You brought up a great point on Twitter about that on Saturday night, and you basically said, Chase Elliott, this is not over. Kevin Harvick is going to do something to you. Do you believe that still?
I mean, the old Kevin Harvick for sure. I think that, just from not having talked to Kevin much this year, but from back at this level, Kevin seems to be a little bit more muted this year, maybe a little bit more calmer. And I don't know if that's performance related. I do know that something flipped in him when he became a father. He, if you go back to Texas when he shoved Keselowski into that thing with Gordon that escalated it and turned it into a fight. Yeah. The next week was the Phoenix, and Kevin did not want to do media. He told NASCAR no, he was not going to come in and do the media, and NASCAR was going to let him get away with that, and everybody was like, he can't do that. He's racing for a championship, blah blah blah. And Kevin ultimately came and he did the media, and he said that he did the media because he's a father now, and he realizes he needs to set a better example, and that his actions, have consequences now that his child sees. So old Kevin Harvick, the guy before who, jumped on Ricky Rudd's hood and grabbed Biffle by the neck and drove his truck up to the doors of the NASCAR hauler, that guy, yeah, he's going to get you. He's not going to forget. and he's definitely going to make it hard on Chase every chance he gets, I suspect. Is he going to flat out wreck him? That seems kind of but, who knows? Who knows? Kevin doesn't. He doesn't take things.
We love our presenting sponsor, OfferPad. It's the easiest way to sell your home. Go visit them today and select the NASCAR tab on the How Did You Hear About Them section.